Declaration of Independence.
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I lost my hand! You make me sick!
Hello and welcome to Cage Unleashed. I am your host, Lego, and I am here to go through the filmography of the one and only Nicolas freaking Cage. Today I'll be doing a double feature of National Treasure 1 and National Treasure Book of Secrets, which came out in 2004 and 2007 respectively. They were directed by John Turteltaub. I hope I said that right, even though I can tell you right now, I did not. There is no way I said that man's name right. But he has directed other films such as Cool Runnings, While You Were Sleeping, another Nick Cage film, Phenomenon. The Kid, obviously the National Treasure films, and most recently, most notably, The Meg, which is obviously amazing because it's a shark movie, and shark movies are cool. And that's just how that math works out. Okay, so let's see. Both these movies were produced by Jerry Bruckheimer. At this point, he is working with Disney, so they are distributed by Disney. They're PG and very family friendly. They had pretty big budgets, with the first one having a budget of about $100 million and definitely making that back at the box office. And the second one having a bit more of a budget with $130 million, and again, definitely making that back at the box office even more than the first one. Together, they grossed. Okay, I don't necessarily trust Box Office Mojo anymore, but I think they grossed over $800 million, so almost $1 billion. But back in the early 2000s, making $1 billion was a lot more than it is today. You know what I mean? Nicolas Cage plays Benjamin Gates. To just kind of broadly speaking, this movie, actually, you know what? I'm a bad person and I acknowledge that. But I asked ChatGPT what the plot of the movie was. So I think I'm just going to read it because I thought it would be funny. So what ChatGPT says National Treasure is about. National Treasure is an adventure film series that follows the exploits of Benjamin Franklin Gates, Nick Cage, an historian and treasure hunter. In the first film, National Treasure 2004, Gates sets out to uncover a hidden treasure believed to be protected by the Freemasons and hidden by the founding fathers of the United States. Along with his team, Gates deciphers various historical clues, including the Declaration of Independence, as they race against the ruthless adversary to find the treasure and protect it from falling into the wrong hands. And then in the sequel, National Treasure Book of Secrets 2007, Gates discovers evidence that his ancestors were implicated in the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. That's not exactly what happens, but close enough. To clear his family's name, he embarks on a quest to find a mythological hidden city of gold. This time, Gates must unravel secrets in the pages of the President's Book of Secrets and face dangerous obstacles to uncover the truth behind the conspiracy. The National Treasure films are filled with historical references, puzzles, and thrilling action as Gates and his team navigate through historical landmarks and solve intricate riddles in their quest for hidden treasure and uncovering historical mysteries. And then in my Nick Cage book, which is by Keith Phipps, he basically says it's Indiana Jones meets Dan Brown, which is exactly how I would describe this series. If we're just talking broadly speaking, and before I get into the actual plot, which I am about to do, I have 18 pages of notes, so I apologize. Yeah. I don't think anything else is super important before I start going through the plot, so I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. So we start in Washington, D.C. in 1974 with a child who we learn is Benjamin Gates, is in an attic and his grandfather, who's played by Christopher Plummer, who is John Adams Gates, comes in and interrupts him and tells him a story. So then we get a flashback to 1832. A gentleman by the name of Charles Carroll is the last survivor signer of the Declaration of Independence, and they assert that he is a Freemason, which is which is a secret society. I'll get into that in a minute. Actually, I'll get into it now. So Freemasons aren't exactly how they describe them in the movie, but I'm gonna be honest, I find the whole concept kind of confusing, so I'm just gonna bypass that and pretend like I understand it. But I guess apparently Freemasons don't have a rule about Catholics joining, but apparently Catholics do have a rule. And by rule, I mean ban on joining the Freemasons. And Charles Carroll was a Catholic, so it is very unlikely that he was a Freemason. However, he could defy his Catholic belief and join the Freemasons anyway. So there's no proof that he was or wasn't. It's just generally considered unlikely that he would have been. Anyway, in the film, 1832, Charles Carroll, he's the last one, and he needs to go to the White House to see President Andrew Jackson. So he wakes up his stable boy, who is Thomas Gates. They're not able to see Jackson, and so Charles Carroll's dying breath, he tells Thomas Gates his secret, and the secret is a treasure. And specifically, we get our first clue. I did count the clues. I also kept a map going on Google to keep track of how many miles we've traveled. So that'll be ridiculous when I get to it. So this treasure is beyond all imagining. That had been fought over for centuries by tyrants, pharaohs, emperors, and warlords. Every time it changed hand, it grew larger, and then suddenly it vanished. It didn't reappear for over 1,000 years later, when the Knights of the First Crusade, which would have been around 1095, I'm doing a lot of my own Googling here. These movies, they're like 5 hours when you watch them together. It took me all day to write all these fucking notes. So anyway, so it was found around 1095 during the First Crusade by Knights who discovered it beneath the Temple of Solomon, which is located in Jerusalem, if you're not aware. So the Knights found the vaults and believed the treasure to be too great for any one man to possess. So they took it back to Europe, which is super smart because you don't have any like royal people there who'd like want the treasure or anything, whatever. And they took on the name the Knights of the Templar. The Knights of the Templar are real. They just Wikipedia, a military order of the Catholic faith and one of the wealthiest and most popular military orders in Western Christianity. They were founded around 1119 and headquartered at the Temple Mountain in Jerusalem and existed for nearly 2 centuries during the Middle Ages. They did not. Well, in the film, over the next century, they smuggled the treasure from Europe over to the United States, or obviously not called the United States back then. I guess the Americas. And they formed a brotherhood called the Freemasons. The Knights of the Templars definitely did not become the Freemasons. Freemasons, entirely different thing. So, okay, back to 1974. So here's where I have a little contention with the films when we get to the second one. I don't know if maybe I missed something or misunderstood something. Yes, the stonecutters. Yeah, I don't know if they missed something or I misunderstood. So in this one, Christopher Plummer's character, John Adams Gates, clearly says that Thomas Gates is his grandfather's grandfather. So keep that in mind because it's gonna come up in the next movie. This is Ben Gates' grandfather's grandfather's grandfather. So that's Ben Gate, his dad, so Christopher Plummer. Okay, his dad, Christopher Plummer's granddad, his dad, and then we have Thomas Gates. So that should be 7 people. We're in a line. That's 7 generations. Okay. Again, We'll get back to that in the next friggin' movie. All right. So anyway, they have a secret. And the secret lies with Charlotte. So then we cut to modern day in the North Atlantic. Didn't specify where in the North Atlantic, just a snowy, sad North Atlantic. Okay, so Ben is on an expedition to find the Charlotte. The Charlotte is a ship. And it just so happens to, find someone who's willing to fund this. And this is the character of Ian, a British character of Ian Howe, played by Sean Bean. And it's very important that Gates has assistant by the name of Riley Poole. We don't necessarily know what he did before he became Gates' assistant, but we know he's Gates' assistant now, and he's some kind of computer guy. Okay. Anyway, so they're in this icy hellhole, and they find the Charlotte very conveniently, very quickly. Way to go, guys. Well, okay, apparently it's taken them 2 years, but in terms of film time, very quickly, very conveniently. They go down to the cargo hold, which is filled with barrels of gunpowder, and things get pretty tense. We do find another clue. Clue number 2, a meerschaum pipe, and which says, the legend writ, the stain affected, the key in silence undetective, 55 in iron pen, Mr. Matlack can't offend. So makes it clue number 3 we learn is that there is an invisible map on the back of the Declaration of Independence. Now we're going to focus on clue number 3 for a while, guys. That's kind of the most of the movie. So we have 9 Masons signed the Declaration of the Independence. 55 men in total signed the Declaration of Independence. So, that's good information. This is a history lesson, guys. Okay, we're learning here. Ian suggests they borrow the Declaration of the Independence, and he says, in another life, I arranged a number of operations of questionable legality. So he clearly has some pull, has some power, right? I don't know what his past was, but he seems like a very interesting international man of mystery, right? Ben doesn't, or I'm going to call him Gates. Gates does not agree with Ian's proposal. They go to shoot Gates, and Gates kind of bluffs with the flare, but then he throws the flare. Ian catches it, which is great, but then his suit or his puffy jacket catches on fire. And then he drops it, and they have to run away from the gunpowder before it ignites. Ben and Riley hide through a smuggler's hole and somehow survive this pretty massive explosion. Then they have to walk 2 miles back again in an icy North Atlantic to get to some little town so they can get a ride back to DC. So here's a little issue I have with the distance thing. I can't know exactly where in the North Atlantic they were, so I have no idea how far they had to go to get back to DC, but so far we count 2 miles. This count's going to go up so much. I have so many questions. Anyway, so we cut to DC. Okay, so we're at the National Archives. Gates and Riley are going in to see Dr. Abigail Chase. It's very important here that Gates notices a flyer for the National Archives 70th year anniversary gala. So they go in to see Dr. Abigail Chase, and they warn her that someone is going to try and steal the Declaration of Independence. And Gates notes that her collection of George Washington campaign buttons is missing one, the 1778 inaugural pin. And he has one. He's going to give it to her later to smooth things over. And I like that. I like that a lot. Anyway, his name, Gates, is apparently known amongst historians in a big bad way. I don't really understand how that or why that is, but okay. How loud and vocal were these guys about there's a giant treasure that's lost. Listen to us. I don't know, but anyway, so Gates already tried to contact the FBI and Homeland Security, and they were not believed. So he's really here to really just trying to get someone to listen to him about his concerns regarding the Declaration of Independence, but he's kind of awkward, and the conversation is legitimately beautiful. Dr. Chase asks, what do you think you're going to find? He's like, we believe there's an encryption on the back. An encryption like a code? Yes, ma'am. Of what? A cartograph? A map? Yes, ma'am. A map of what? The location of hidden items of historic and intrinsic value. A treasure map. Like, she is just cutting through all of his bullshit, and it's so funny. And he's awkwardly shifting when he has to admit that it's invisible, and they pretty much get kicked out of her office, like rightfully so. Then they're back in the archives, and Gates decides if there's something wrong with those who have, or if there's something wrong, those who have the ability to take action have the responsibility to take action, which leads to the line. I'm going to steal it. I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence. Ah, that line. It's good. It's good. I love that line. Who doesn't love that line? That line is it's precious. It's precious. All right. I have like 3 things of juice next to me, and I feel like I'm going to die of dehydration before I get through this. Then it cuts to them on the Lincoln Memorial, like the steps, talking. And if you don't know, that's about 1.5 miles from the National Archives. Like, these buildings aren't necessarily all that close. And I don't know if they took a cab, in which case, good luck getting a cab in DC. Are you crazy? That takes like an hour in and of itself. So anyway, sure, they just transported there. Like, they have Scotty beam them up or something. So they're talking about like stealing the Declaration of Independence, and Riley is like, no, you can't steal the Declaration. Not that you shouldn't, you can't. So then they go to the Library of Congress, and that's like 2.5 miles from the Lincoln Memorial. But okay, that's your whole day, by the way. If you go from the National Archives to the Lincoln Memorial to the Library of Congress, that's your whole day. There's no way you're still doing anything else. You're probably not even doing all of that. That's a lot. It doesn't seem like it's a lot of travel, but in a city as dense as DC, that's a lot of travel. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so he tries to show Gates that they can't steal the Declaration of Independence, but in trying to do this, they realize they can. Which again leads me to, what exactly is Riley's specialty? I don't quite know. But the way that they're going to be able to steal it is by going to the gala and making sure that the Declaration of Independence is in the preservation room, which would lead this to be possible. So Gates, still pretending to be Mr. Brown, goes in as a janitor, and he then derobes into a tux, which is amazing. He, again, like I mentioned earlier, sends Dr. Chase the Washington pin that she was missing. And it's heist time, guys. I love a heist. Heists are important. Very important. Oh, wait, I forgot. There was an image that cut in before this that was amazing. So if you don't know, generally speaking, in a film, when you're cutting back and forth to a lot of locations, you'll cut to an exterior shot, then an interior shot. Sometimes you'll label where you are, sometimes you won't. But generally speaking, why you do this is so that you can let the audience know that you're focusing on somewhere else or someone else. So the exterior shot is simply this. For audio listeners, it's just like a group of buildings, which is very recognizable to me as I live around the DC area. But I actually never realized what this was until kind of recently, and I cackled when I saw it. And then it cuts to Ian, who's the bad guy, Sean Bean's character, because what they showed a picture of is the Watergate complex, which obviously is famous for the whole Nixon scandal. But I just thought that was so funny that they had Ian, the bad guy, in the Watergate complex. Like, that cracked me up. Ian realizes that they need to go to the gala as well, because that'll be the easiest time to steal the Declaration. So all of our characters are converging at the gala. All right, so Gates, as I said, goes in as the janitor, switches into the tux. He's masquerading as Mr. Brown. Ian and his crew come through the sewers like there's some kind of like adolescent martial arts shelled reptiles or something. Okay. So Gates runs into Dr. Chase and her boo, Stanley. We don't see Stanley in the next movie. She has a different boo in that movie. Get it, Dr. Chase. Anyway, they toast to high treason, which is hilarious. And they have another awkward conversation that makes her very suspicious because my boy is being very damn suspicious. He's so awkward. But he's not like condescending. He's just awkward. Like, yeah, just run away. Stop trying to lie. You're not good at it. Anyways, so he runs into Ian after he's stolen the Declaration, and they kind of get into like a fight. Ian and his men shoot at Ben, but he is able to block the bullets with the Declaration casing, which is lucky for them. I mean, really lucky for all of them that thing is bulletproof. He gets back out into the gala, and he has a credit card slip wherein he buys the replica of the Declaration of Independence because he only has $32 cash and it's $35 to buy it. You really can't turn around and ask someone else in that store to give you $5? Really? Come on, boy. You could have been smarter. Anyway, so Dr. Chase chases after Gates because she's, again, suspicious of him. And then the alarms start going off when they realize the Declaration has been stolen. Oh my gosh. Gates and Riley leave, but Dr. Chase is taken by Ian and his team of bad guys. She does have the declaration, or so they think. Riley and Gates follow after, realizing that they took Abigail and they want to save her. Which honestly, there's no way in effing hell you're going to have a high-speed car chase in DC. That's just, there's no way possible. Where in DC are they that there's no pedestrians, the streets are that wide, there aren't people driving on the streets? It's so nonsensical, but whatever. Anyway, they get Abigail back, and Ian realizes that he doesn't have the Declaration. He has a replica of the Declaration, which is kind of a fuck you, and it's very funny. He even says, "Well done, Gates, well done," as if he's James Cromwell giving Babe a pat on the head at the end of the movie. I've always wanted that. James Cromwell could definitely give me a pat on the head and say, "Well done, pig, well done," and I would be very happy. Even though it's so condescending. Whatever. Anyway, so Gates tells Chase to calm down and be more civil. Stop yelling, it's annoying. Sir, you just abducted her. Whatever. He's like, I leveled with you 100%. Then she replies, give me the document, Mr. Brown. He's like, oh, I leveled with you 98%. That's when she realizes he's a Gates. They're the family with the conspiracy theory about the founding fathers. Again, how public was this family about this conspiracy theory? Guys, just be quiet about it. Go find it. Just shut up. Just do it. Stop talking about it. Then we are introduced to Sadusky, which I really kept wanting to say Sandusky with an N, but there's no N. It's just Sadusky, who is played by Harvey Keitel, and he is the FBI. He shows up to say the Declaration of Independence. I don't know if the FBI would be responsible for that or not, but all right. They find the bullet casings, and there are no guards who either fired their guns or were fired at. So he has the questions of who's shooting, who are they shooting at, and why weren't they getting along? And he's got a whole mystery to unsolve. And because of the credit card slip, though, they need to go to Gates' father. I'm just going to call him Dad, who is played by John Voight. And they need to get the original Silence Dogood letters. I don't know why they knew no. Okay, I do know why they knew they were going to need this. Because the pipe from the Charlotte referenced silence with the capital S. So they know they need the letters by Silence Dogood, which was a pseudonym that Ben Franklin used. He used a lot to write under. I don't necessarily know why. I just know that was a thing. And Silence Dogood was apparently a widow. He pretended to be a widow. I don't know why, again. But that was a thing that happened. So they have these letters that Silence Dogood wrote, or they're supposed to. And Dr. Chase comes along with them because she doesn't want to leave the Declaration behind. Oh, dear. And the FBI is slowly figuring out things. They have because of the credit card skip, they know it's Gates. So we now also know that Benjamin Gates has an American history degree from Georgetown, a degree in mechanical engineering from MIT, and Navy ROTC and naval diving and salvage training. That's a lot. Kind of random. I don't know if Gates is supposed to be the same age as Nicolas Cage is. He was 40 when the movie was released. But I think to get that much training, you're not a young man. Okay, so Gates, Riley, and Dr. Chase show up at Dad's house, and they ask for the Silence Do-Good letters. Dad is super bitter. He's like, stop chasing this. You're ruining your life. You're dragging other people down with you. Come on. But he is also very curious about what they got. Like you found the Charlotte? What's the next clue? Well, there's always going to be a clue. But also, what is the clue? So they take the declaration and try not to let Dad in on what's happening because he would freak out. And when he does, like legitimately freak. I would too. I would be having a panic attack for sure. So they use lemon, and luckily Dad has an entire refrigerator full of lemons, and they use what are they called, like Q-tips to like very gently juice the back of the Declaration of Independence and heat it so they can see the invisible map. And what they find is an Ottendorf cipher, which is, if you don't know, you'll have 3 numbers. It'll be a page number, a line, for like how many lines down the page, and then across how many words. And then that'll be the word you need for whatever the sentence you're spelling out is. It's 2004, but I feel like the Silence Do-Good letters would be online. But all right, whatever. We'll get past that. These movies have an interesting relationship with technology that watching it now feels very dated. So Dad realizes it's a declaration and he freaks out. And he also tells them that he donated the Silence Do-Good letters to the Franklin Institute. So they have to drive from DC to Philadelphia, which is about 140 miles. Which should be about a 3-hour drive because traffic and stuff. Although this is in the middle of the night, so they might be able to get it a little bit faster. All right, so clue number 4 we get from the Silence Do-Good Ottendorf cipher, and that is the vision to see treasured past comes as the timely shadow crosses in front of the house of Pass and Stowe. So Ian also realizes this is from the cipher that there was a reference to Silence Do-Good, and he knows, I'm assuming because he knows how to work the internet, and our smart boys don't, that the Silence Do-Good letters are at the Franklin Institute. So he's there also. Riley is paying this little boy to run back and forth from him across the street into the Franklin Institute and with the cipher information, but he's only doing a few letters at a time, which I think is very smart. So he's down to his last 4 letters, but then he takes off when he realizes what the last 4 letters are because he saw a picture of the Liberty Bell. If you're not familiar, the Liberty Bell does have Pass and Stowe written on it. All right, Liberty Bell. Goodness gracious, so many historical landmarks in these films. Ian sees the little kid and he gives him $100 to get the last 4 letters. And he also sees Stowe. Again, Stowe very famously in relationship to the Liberty Bell. So now he also knows where to go. Gates and Dr. Chase, meanwhile, are having a romantic moment while they're, changing clothes and I'm assuming a mall. And then we're treated to, honestly, just a really lovely moment where Gates, after paying, realizes he needs a $100 bill. So he gives the cashier a scuba watch as collateral to get one of the $100 bills back so they can look at an etching of Independence Hall, which is on the back of the $100 bill, which shows Independence Hall has a clock on it, so they can see what time it said in 1780, which was 2:22, which is, I'm counting clue 4.5. So poor Riley finally gets a chance to know something that Dr. Chase and Gates don't know, specifically that daylight savings wasn't established until World War I. So obviously this is much later than the 1700s. However, it does ignore that, I was going to grab a picture and I didn't, but an analemma, which is it's spelled like anal Emma, but it's analemma. If you don't know, you can see if you take a picture every day at the same time and in a fixed place, you can, and then map out the position of the sun, you'll see this kind of H shape. And that's because the sun's position in the sky at the exact same time of day, even if you ignore daylight savings, will change because that's how the Earth's rotation works. So depending on what time of year, the sun would be in a dramatically different position, like if you're looking at winter and summer. So that doesn't quite work. But we also see that the brick, they're going to find a brick. It does have the emblem of the Masons on it. So it would have been obvious that that was the brick to choose regardless. So we'll just move past that completely. It's fine. It's inaccurate, but it's fine. So at the Franklin Institute from Independence Hall is about 1.5 miles, I think, based on what Google Maps told me. All right. So Gates, Dr. Chase, and Riley get up to the steeple. I wrote chapel, steeple. Science lessons in the middle of the podcast are fun. I totally agree, Ambassador. So we get up to the steeple, and technically our time says it's 3:22. However, back in the 1700s, it would have been 2:22. And they see that the cross lands on a certain area of brick. Gates runs across, pulls out the brick, and he gets a very cool pair of glasses, which honestly really reminded me of my guy here, Dr. Jacoby from Twin Peaks, whom I love. He's awful and fun. Yes. And so he gets the glasses, and then, guys, a lot of stuff's about to happen. Okay, so clue number 5 is the glasses, or some kind of ocular device invented by Benjamin Franklin. And so they look at the back of the Declaration of Independence with the glasses, and we get another clue. Clue number 6, here at the wall. There's more to clue number 6, but we get interrupted. So Ian and this guy show up, and then we have to split party because we don't want Ian to get the Declaration of Independence, and we don't want Ian to get the glasses, but we definitely don't want Ian to get both. So one group takes the glasses, and the other takes, so Gates takes the glasses, and then Dr. Chase and Riley take the Declaration of Independence, and then they all run for it. All right, so Dr. Chase, I love this. She hides behind a food counter, and the lady's like, who's working there is like, if you're not steak, you don't belong back here. And Dr. Chase is like, no, I'm hiding from my ex-husband. And the lady looks up, who, Baldy? Honey, stay as long as you like. Honestly, yes. Because going back to the girl at the mall who sold them the clothes, I'm always a little annoyed in movies like this where you have your main characters and then maybe like some peripheral characters that are very like frequent or important. And your main characters might be shown as being like very pop culture savvy. I've been watching Gilmore Girls. Pop culture savvy or intelligent and making like references or jokes that like always go over everyone else's head. But it's like, but your outside characters always don't care, which kind of never makes sense to me. Like, I was there and this guy was excitedly telling me about this really crazy information about the history of the $100 bill. I would be like, my elbows would be on the counter. I'd be leaning in. I would be so into this. But she's just like, I don't care. It's just lame. It's whatever. Unrealistic. It's fine. Like, it's like these movies live in a world where nobody yes ands. Or maybe I just yes and too much. Wow. Anyway, so I'm only on page 7 out of 18, guys. This is tragic. Okay, so they start shooting like at Gates at this old cemetery, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my God, don't die in a cemetery. That's just too much. And Ian ends up letting them all go when he thinks he has, or because he does have the Declaration of Independence. This is when Sadusky shows up and arrests Gates. Bwom. All right, so Dr. Chase has an idea. She gets Riley to get in touch with Ian, and then Gates ends up telling Sadusky everything, the truth. He's just so honest. It's I don't know how I feel about it, because it feels like an extension of the character that he was playing in The Rock, where he's just this like very straight and narrow, good, nerdy guy who really loves and is very passionate about the things that he does. But it's to a point where it's like kind of detrimental to like the situation that he's in. But whatever, moving on. So Sadusky gives him options like you can go to prison for a very long time. We're going to get the Declaration of Independence back. You can help us, and you can still go to prison at a very, very long time, but you'll feel better inside. So someone's got to go to prison. And he says this again later on. So Ian calls Gates, and they set up a meeting at the flight deck of the USS Intrepid, which is in New York. So now we're going from, I don't even remember where we are. We're going from Philadelphia to New York City. It's going to be about 97 miles, which would be about 2 hours if you're driving, give or take. This is traffic. Oh, so much. Okay, so now we're in New York. And Gates' scuba diving practice is about to come in handy because he makes a getaway with Ian's help because he really just does not want to go to prison. And honestly, I can get behind that. All right, so Gates hooks back up with Ian, Dr. Chase, and Riley, and they end. Well, okay. Ian does keep his word, and he gives him back the Declaration and the glasses, but they still need the clue. So clue 6 continued. We get more words when they look through the glasses, which are beneath Parkington Lane, which they realize is a grave at Trinity Church at Wall and Broad Street, if Google Maps is to be relied upon. So they go down and they like bust through the grave marker. Well, it's like a catacomb, not a catacomb. What are they called? Oh shoot, I know this. Mausoleum. And so they bust through the wall, which is the person's like grave marker. But it's not a real person, although a real skeleton does fall through because these things is old. And so they go through to this like underground portion. Yes, so from here on, we have the underground portion of the film, ladies and gentlemen. Buckle up. It is an elaborate system of these old-ass wooden stairs and this kind of elevator and this, if you light the thingy on fire, it becomes like a torch candelabra. I don't know. It's huge, and it's all built under a graveyard in New York. This does not seem safe. I am like dad. Oh, dad's there because Ian kidnapped him, or didn't kidnap him. He abducted him. Things are getting wild. Things are getting crazy. A lot's happening. Okay. They start going down these old ass rickety stairs, and it turns into the mines of Moria. Like we got people rolling off things, people falling to their deaths. A lot's happening. We see that Gates and Dr. Chase are willing to risk their lives to save the Declaration of Independence, and they also very intrinsically trust each other because movies got a romance, I guess. Oh dear. Then they reach seemingly they reach a dead end, and Ian leaves them at gunpoint. Dad tries to get back on the elevator, but Ian's not having it. And Dad tells Ian that the next clue is a lantern, which is in Boston, and gives them a whole backstory. And Ian just leaves them there to die. Anyway, so they find another way out, as Gates says, through the treasure room. But then they end up finding another small, basically empty room. And Gates is so disappointed. But you know what? You did it, Ben, for all of us. And I've never been so happy to be proved wrong. Dad should have said, I'm proud of you at that moment. If I was the writer, I would have added in, and I'm proud of you, but it didn't do it. And that's fine, writers. That's fine. It's whatever. It's fine. Anyway, so there should be another way out. You know, there should be another way out. But it doesn't make sense, like architecturally speaking. And then they look and see this round, or this series of round things in the wall, and Gates sees specifically one is shaped like the pipe they found in the Charlotte. The secret lies with Charlotte. So he plugs the pipe in, and he turns and pushes in the button, and we get honestly, a very impressive set. It is so elaborate. The scope is amazing, and we find the treasure. It's amazing looking. And this girl, Dr. Chase, with a torch, which is fire, gets near these old ass scrolls in a room full of dust. Do you know how flammable dust is? Do you understand how flammable dust is? Oh, Lord, no. I would have put those fires out. I couldn't believe these people walking in that dusty ass room with those torches with all that old stuff. And there are scrolls from the Library of Alexandria. I would literally fucking faint. I would be dead. There's a lot of stuff that's like very Egyptian looking, and some stuff in the back kind of looks vaguely Chinese, but I can't really see past the stuff because it's a huge room full of treasure. Again, I can't believe they lit more fire in a room with such little ventilation that's completely full of dust. Who designed? No, it's fine. Anyway, they also find stairs, so they go back up and they get back to the Trinity Church, and they bust through another grave. And I'm just looking at this janitor who found this disturbed remains of Parkington Lane, and then he looks up to see another like grave marker being punched through. That man's gonna need therapy forever. I mean, I know like clearly living people, Gates, Dad, Riley, and Dr. Chase come through, but like that man, you can't tell me that man didn't shit his pants. If I was working at a cemetery or a mausoleum and it broke from the outside or from the inside out, I would fucking cry. No, I quit. I'm done with everything. Zombie apocalypse. I don't even know what I'm doing. Have you seen the movie, what's it called? Blast from the Past with Brendan Fraser? Yeah, that's me. I'm finding a bunker. This poor janitor. Anyway, so Gates calls Sadusky, and he gives him the Declaration of Independence, and which is basically his bargaining chip. He's really not good at bargaining. And they sit down and have a conversation. So Sadusky is wearing a ring, he realizes, that's a Freemason ring. And he says, the Knights of the Templar and the Freemasons believe that the treasure was too great for any one man to have, echoing what the story was at the beginning, actually kind of saying it verbatim. And that's why they went to such great lengths to keep it hidden. So Gates says he wants to give the treasure to the people, museums. There are thousands of years of history down there, and it belongs to the world and everyone in it. Sadusky ends up kind of liking Gates and respecting that decision. And so he's like, yeah, but again, someone's got to go to prison. So Gates, here's the deal. Dr. Chase gets off scot-free. The credit for finding the treasure goes to the entire Gates family with the assistance of Mr. Riley Poole. And he doesn't want to go to prison, so he's giving up Ian, who they send to Boston, which is another 225 miles away. So how they got there first, I don't necessarily understand. I 100% Ambassador, I agree, National Treasure was inside of us all along. Yeah, that's the true National Treasure. It was the ride. So in the end, they got a finder's fee of 0.5%. So they got 1% and divided it between Riley and Gates. Gates and Dr. Chase have a relationship. They bought a house, and I do like that Gates starts to tell us about the house, which was Charles Carroll's house, which was the old dude from the beginning who told his grandfather, heir to the whatever power, Thomas, about the Charlotte in the beginning. Riley got a nice red car, which is a Ferrari 360 Spider, not to be confused with the 1961 250 GT California Spider Red that Cameron Fry had in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And thus, concludes the film, which honestly, I really like the movie. Like, the United States' founding fathers hid a massive treasure from the British, and now, like nearly 250 years later, Ben Gates and his associates are trying to prevent a greedy British man from finding said treasure. It's like history repeats itself. We did travel approximately 465 miles, plus however far it was from the North Atlantic to DC, which I don't know. But this movie is so good. I friggin' love this movie. And oh my God, I forgot to write down who did the music, but the music, fucking stellar. Is it Howard Shore? I'm really not sure I'm hesitant to Google it because I don't want the loud clicky noises, and I'm on here by myself, so I can't like mute myself and like make somebody else to look it up or something. If anyone could put in the chat who did the music, that would be honestly super dope. Okay, so I'm going to take a sip of coffee before we get into... I'm out of coffee, my God. Before we get into National Treasure 2. All right, National Treasure 2. Oh, Book of Secrets, which came out about 3 years later. Listen, we got a bigger budget, and it did definitely make a lot more money. And this movie deserved it. This is one of those sequels. So good. So good. Like, sequel lived up to the OG. Totally. I mean, I can definitely understand like one liking one over the other, but I don't intrinsically see one having more value over the other. So like any like opinion of I like this one over that one, I totally get it. Like there no explanation needed. Like, get it. Can you tell I'm vamping because I'm really thirsty and trying to drink a lot? All right, I'm on page 10 of my 18-page document. I have a problem. I think I'm gonna upload my notes to my blog so people can read like how fucking insane I am when I take notes on this stuff. Okay, so National Treasure 2, Book of Secrets came out in 2007, and I'm just gonna go ahead and get into it because I explained kind of the summary and all that stuff up top. So we begin in DC, April 14th, 1865, 5 days after the Civil War ended. We see two meet. Oh my God. I can enunciate. Two men are meeting with Thomas Gates. They seem to not know each other. If you remember, Thomas Gates is the kid who was with Charles Carroll at the beginning of the previous film, which was in 1832. So this is 33 years later, and he's now a daddy himself to his son, Charles. The two men want Thomas Gates to decipher a Playfair cipher, which is a coded message. But in this particular type of cipher, you need a code to decode it, which is our clue number 1. But we'll get back to this clue in the present day. So just like remember that. All right, so there's a play going on. Abraham Lincoln is seeing it. I think we can all figure out what happens. And the assassin, John Wilkes Booth, screams, Sic semper tyrannis, which is, if you don't know, it means like thus always to tyrants, which is kind of, it kind of just means like when bad things happen to tyrants, they kind of had it coming. Like, bad things will always befall tyrants because that's just how history has to work, how time has to work, I guess. The other man is still with Thomas Gates, and he is wearing a pin that says KGC on it. And oh God, I have hiccups. Thomas recognizes this as the Knights of the Golden Circle, and he calls him a traitor. The man shoots Thomas, and then Thomas tries to throw the page that's the code into the fire, and it partially burns, but the man grabs it, and he grabs the book, which is known as the Booth Diary, and he runs. And as Thomas lays dying, he tells his son Charles, "The debt all men pay," and he dies before finishing the sentence. And the kid, honestly, shout out to that kid. Great acting. I really believe this kid was sobbing over his father dying. Like, just tragic. But I wanted to go back to the Knights of the Golden Circle, the KGC. That was a real secret society founded in 1854. This is just my wiki search. And its objective was to create a new country known as the Golden Circle where slavery would be legal. So I'm going to call them Super KKK. Yes. Sad, tragic, awful, very bad people. I have a lot to say about this movie, probably more than I do about the first one. All right, so we have Gates and Dad are giving like a lecture about this event that we saw the flashback for. And it seems like Thomas is going to be inaugurated into this like hero exhibit somewhere. They don't really say. And they say that Thomas burning the legendary missing page of the Booth diary, had he not, the killers may have found a vast treasure of gold that could have meant that the Union would have lost the war. Which is kind of weird because the war was already over, so I think they mean they could have started another war, which they would have won. But whatever, we're going to move past that chronological issue in his wording. On to enter Mitch Wilkinson, played by Ed Harris. And I'm going to be honest, I'm only going to refer to him as Foghorn Leghorn. I don't know what that accent was. He will only be called by Foghorn Leghorn going forward. I don't trust him. I don't know why he's doing this in such a weird and public way. It's very cringy, very dramatic, super messy. Is he gay? Because I don't know anyone straight that's that messy. It's crazy. All right, so he's like he is great to the whatever power grandfather was Silas Wilkinson, or Mr. Foghorn Leghorn. And he asserts that the KGC didn't seek out Thomas to decipher code, but rather he called the meeting to plan the assassination of Lincoln an hour before he was killed. That doesn't make any sense, but whatever, it's fine. Just because his name was printed on the page that apparently asserts that he was part of the conspiracy, again, that doesn't make sense. Like, clearly, regardless, they were going there to find him to decipher the thing. Why would... I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. It's not really tracking for me. But on a side note, just for like a life tip, don't write down your crimes. Don't do that. Anyway, moving forward. So he has the missing page of the Booth diary. Again, he's so messy. But also that's like a little weird that you have the missing page of that diary, because doesn't that mean your ancestor was one of the people that killed Lincoln? Like, aren't you incriminating your ancestry by coming forward with that? It's just not tracking well for me. But we're gonna get more on Foghorn Leghorn. So anyway, Dad Gates and Foghorn Leghorn discuss the page that Foghorn Leghorn has. Again, and apparently he's asserting that it implicates Thomas Gates in the assassination of Lincoln, which it just logically doesn't. Like, there's so many explanations that his name could be written down there. His name could have been written there because they were looking for him to decipher the thing. Honestly, I just fixed it. We don't need the rest of the movie to continue. Come on, bro. Anyway, Dad Gates takes this very personally. But here's where I have a problem, because he's talking about his grandfather telling him the story. And he's saying his grandfather was Charles. No, it fucking wasn't. Here, I got a picture. I made a... Okay. So we have Ben Gates. We have his father, Patrick Gates. We have his father, who again was played by Christopher Plummer, who is John Adams Gates. They're saying Patrick's grandfather was Charles, and then Charles' father was Thomas. But in the previous film, they fucking said, guys, they said Thomas, or Christopher Plummer, John Adams here, said it was his grandfather's grandfather. So there should be two more people in here. This should be Patrick's father, grandfather, great grandfather. I don't know. There should be like two more people in there. They should not be saying that Charles was his grandfather. Maybe I misread or misunderstood what they were saying, but it really seemed to heavily imply that Charles was his grandfather. No, Charles is not his grandfather. He had his father, his grandfather, him. I don't know. There should be like 3 generations between them. It just didn't make sense. I'm calling him out. Plot hole. Whatever. Fine. He's mad. Moving on. So we cut to Riley at a book signing. He wrote a book called The Templar's Treasure, and he's talking about myths that are true. I really love that. I think it's very funny. He's definitely a conspiracy theorist. His red Ferrari has been towed, but more specifically, it was impounded by the IRS because his accountant really fucked things up. He's having a hard time, and nobody's really heard of Riley. Nobody cares about his book signing, but honestly, that's most book signings. Like, if you have a book signing, don't expect anyone to show up unless you're Stephen King or Neil Gaiman. Like, because it's just not happening. Yeah, this poor guy. But I really would like to know, like, what he did before he met up with Ben Gates, because I feel like his resume should be enough to like get him a really good job. I'm just confused. Although having a tax debt of like $6 million is a lot. We'll move past that. So he goes to see Gates and they catch up. Apparently, Dr. Chase broke up with him. So he's living with his father. Okay, again, I'm sorry. I'm Confucian. So she got the house, but they weren't even married. So why did she get the house? Because he got the finder's fee for the treasure. She didn't get anything. They got 1%, and it was split 50-50 from Riley and him. So how does she have the castle that he bought? That didn't make sense to me. A follow-up question, why is he living with his dad when dude's rich as shit? Given this is DC and it can be a hard place to find a house in. Speaking from experience. And honestly, why the fuck would you want to live in DC proper when you can live in Maryland or Virginia? Although I would take Maryland over Virginia. Have you lived in Alexandria? Have you seen Alexandria? No. Anyway, so it just didn't... I find some plot holes in this. Like, they're trying to make these characters underdogs, but they're not. Like, they're not underdogs. None of these people are underdogs. These people don't even know what an underdog is. More on that later. So, moving on. They break into his own house. Does he have a deed? Whose name's on the deed? I have so many follow-up questions. Okay, whatever. So they break into the house. We're calling this heist number 1. Apparently she changed the codes on him. I think that's so funny, but Riley bypasses them within 25 seconds. It's ridiculous. Get a dog, people. Get a dog. She's on a date with a White House curator, Connor, who's played by Ty Burrell, and he's so cute. He's so cute. I love him. Okay, so awkward reunion between Dr. Chase and Gates. It's bad, guys. It's bad. And he questions her about the page from the Booth Diary, which apparently she's looking over, and he wants to look at it under infrared and offers her the Boston tea tables, both of them. So they get to go to the lab. Woohoo! They find a cipher on the page, but they don't find the key. All right, then we're going to hop over to the J. Edgar Hoover building in which is the FBI building, which, okay, so in the last movie, in The Rock, when we saw when we went to FBI headquarters, they just showed a picture of the mall, specifically of the Washington and Lincoln monuments, and then they went to the FBI headquarters, and I complained that the FBI headquarters is not at the mall. Here, they actually show the J. Edgar Hoover building, which is the FBI headquarters. So, props to them for understanding proper location and exterior shots. That's better. It's a nitpick, but as someone who like lives in the area and knows the buildings, I appreciate that. Okay, so Sadusky has been Sadusky has been alerted that Gates is in the news, that that Thomas Gates has been implicated in the assassination of Lincoln. I don't know why this would be front page news. Does anyone think this would be front page news? Because I don't think it would be front page news. Okay, Jake, I have the Disney Plus series on my watch list. I still haven't actually watched it. But there is rumors there's going to be a National Treasure 3. I'll wait to see what happens. Anyway, so Sadusky is wondering who Foghorn Leghorn is. Why did he suddenly come forward with this page that's like hundreds of fucking years old? All right, so the dad's still upset, like watching the news, and he's just this depressed old John Voight wandering around in his robe, which honestly should have been a smoking jacket, missed opportunity, but whatever. Moving on. Again, would this be front page news? Would this be something that's news? Would this be something that news correspondents are talking about? Like, I'm just confused. Anyway, so Riley and Gates try to come up with a 5-letter keyword for the cipher, which was clue number 1. And they realized that when Thomas was dying, the debt that all men pay was the clue to the 5-letter word, which is death. Death is the debt that all men pay. So with death, they're able to use a cipher and find that the cipher says Laboulaye, which is a reference to Edward Laboulaye, I guess that's clue 2. And the Laboulaye lady, which if you don't know, Edward Laboulaye designed and the Statues of Liberty. And they need to go to the Statue of Liberty that is in France. But cut to Dr. Chase is having dinner with Foghorn Leghorn, like the betrayer that she is. How dare she? How dare she? I don't know why she would show him the latent letter fragments. Again, this man is just an evil, messy mastermind. She gets a call from Gates while she's having dinner with Foghorn Leghorn, and he overhears everything they're talking about, which is more specifically the reference to Laboulaye. Like, girl, why are you giving him all the clues? It's whatever. So Foghorn Leghorn and her continue to have a conversation, and he tells her that he is descended from a Confederate general, Albert Pike. He calls him a remarkable man. Like, listen. No, he wasn't. If your ancestor is a Confederate general, that's some shit to, like, you know, I'm not saying hide it or acknowledge it. That's your choice. But don't call them a remarkable man. Because they weren't. They were a racist. And like having, again, like coming forward with this page in the diary asserts that you're also just descended from these people who are part of the Knights of the Golden Circle who were super KKK. So you're just implicating all of your ancestry into like massive levels of fucking racism. Why are you doing that, bro? And then you're trying to get like redeemed at the end? No. What? No. More on that later. Foghorn Leghorn was a very confusing character to me. Like, I have follow-up questions. What were you people thinking is the number one. Anyway, he says, what is history but a marker for the deeds of great men? We have a lot of history about bad men. What the fuck are you even talking about? You know what? It's fine. Moving on from him. So we need to decide which Statue of Liberty to go to. It's the one in Paris, France, which is from Dulles to Paris is like 3,830 miles, give or take, which is about an 8-hour flight. Again, I am keeping track of the miles. The clues get a little confusing on this one. Anyway, so Riley uses this little mini helicopter to like fly around the statue to like read this plaque on it, or the inscription rather. And boy, some police interrupt them and are very helpful. And I don't know if that's more confusing, is that the police help them or Parisian police help them? Like, okay. So anyway, we get clue number 3, which is across the sea, these twins stand resolute to preserve what we are looking for. Laboulaye, 1876. So this is an indication of the Resolute desks, one of which is in London at Buckingham Palace. So I guess we are going to see Yul Brynner. I feel like John Turtletub was just obsessed with Buckingham Palace. Whatever. So we get from Paris to London, which is like 300 miles, give or take. I'm not exactly sure. Again, looking at Google Maps here, people. I don't even know what's around the corner from me. Maps are confusing. Anyway, so Sadusky got background on Foghorn Leghorn. Apparently, Foghorn Leghorn studied at Virginia Military Institute and graduated in 1978. He ran a private security company, had contracts in Iraq during the invasion and the Congo in the late 90s. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what any of that fucking means. I don't know history. Who knows history? That's why I'm watching these movies, to learn. Basically, he's a mercenary and a black market antiquity dealer. I don't actually know what that means. I mean, I know what a mercenary is, but I'm not sure entirely what a black market antiquity dealer is. Like, do they sell, like, stolen paintings and stuff? That's what I'm assuming. I don't know. That would be a fun job. Illegal, but, like, let's be honest, that'd be fun. You know. Oh, well, moving on. I didn't do anything, but, like, I'm not opposed to like watching a documentary about it. So the dad is hit over the head when he comes home from a home invader, and then they clone his phone. So at this point, every time he has a conversation on the phone, oh, okay, I'm sorry. I'm sitting on like a hammock chair and rocking, and it's like, it's fun. I drank a lot of coffee. I'm moving on. So yeah, every time he calls anyone on his phone now, Foghorn Leghorn knows what the conversation is. I feel bad for the dad. He's getting a rough go of it. All right. So then we go to Buckingham Palace for heist number 2. I do like this line that Riley says here, which is, of course, someone else is after the treasure. That's the axiom of treasure hunting. Honestly, it really is. So Riley is a tech genius, and he just doesn't get enough credit. I wanted to say that now. Gates pretends to be drunk, and holy convenience, Dr. Chase is there too. Apparently she got a call from Dad saying that they were going to go to Buckingham Palace, and they just happened to be there at the exact same time, even though all this travel has to happen. That's fine. Again, clearly they're teleporting, and that makes sense. They get into a loud fight. Cage is in a rage. And Gates and Chase are detained. From there, Riley's able to get them out so that they're able to get up to the Resolute desk, which kind of doesn't fully make sense because we hear that Dr. Chase had an appointment with the curator, and I feel like they could have just had the fucking appointment with the curator. They didn't need to go through the heist, but whatever. Fine, we're here. Let's go. All right, so at the desk, they learned that it was made by Malcolm Gilvery, who made Chinese puzzle boxes, and that the drawers at the bottom, they have these little ticker marks, and they end up working like a tumbler system on a safe. And the tumbler system the code is 1876. They get some dusty knobs, and they turn some things, and some doodads happen, and it gets all wild and crazy, and they open a secret compartment door. I'm waving my hands a lot, and they get a wooden plaque. And on this wooden plaque is like centuries older than the Civil War, and it has engravings on it. So we get clue number 4, and they don't know how to decipher it. So Gates spots Foghorn Leghorn watching them, and he starts shooting at them once they get down to the street level. So then Gates drives backwards in England using a camera, and I gotta say, that's a very impressive car chase. Way to go. Foghorn Leghorn calls Dr. Chase and talks to Gates, saying that Gates says he's not going to give up the wood. He ends up running a red light so that it takes a picture of the plaque while he's holding it up. And apparently they're able to Riley hacks in and gets a copy of the photo. But like, have you ever seen those photos? They're not that clear. What the fuck? It's fine. Or maybe England's or like London's are better, but then this is 20 years later, or nearly 20 years later, and they're still fuzzy. So I don't know. Yeah, whatever. So back to DC, which is like from London to DC, assuming Dulles, is like 3,675 miles again. So it's like an 8-hour flight. Gates, Dr. Chase, and Riley goes to Dad's house. Dad is very happy to see Dr. Chase because he wants her and his son Ben to get back together. They discover the marking is probably pre-colonial, Native American, easily 500 years old, in reference to clue number 4. And they look at a symbol, and Dad recognizes it as Cibola, which is a city of gold. And Gates tells the story. We get story time. In 1527, a Spanish ship wrecked on the Florida coast. There were only 4 survivors. One was a slave named Esteban, who saved a local tribe's leader from dying, a chief from dying. As a reward, he was taken to their sacred city, a city built from solid gold. Later, when Esteban tried to find the city, he never could. So I assume this is in reference to the... Oh my God, I can't pronounce this. Navarrete expedition, which crashed, I think, in Tampa Bay. That's like a real expedition. I don't know if there's any connection to the cities of gold or anything, but in myth, the cities of gold are like a mythology thing. There's supposed to be 7 of them. So there's Cibola. Probably the most famous is El Dorado, Piatiti, city of Caesars, Lake Paraim at Manoa, Analia, and Quivera. I don't think I pronounced any of those right after El Dorado. But yeah, there's 7 of them. So, I get the next movie could be finding the other 6 or what's on page 47. Anyway, so there's something about General Custard, and then nobody looked for the gold again. And then we get our new line, because where do you go from I'm going to seal the Declaration of Independence? Oh, wait, I skipped ahead. That is not what happened at all. Rather, we don't have the line yet. We have, I'm going to go talk to her. You're coming with me. And Dad replies, no, someone else can translate, to which Gates replies, for ancient Native American, there's no one better than his mom. Woo, boo, boo, boo. So she is at the Gates' mom, who is Emily Appleton, played by Helen Mirren, is a professor at the University of Maryland. If you're going from DC to the University of Maryland, it's, depending on where you are in DC, probably like 9-10 miles. The dad is nervous about seeing his ex. They haven't seen each other in a very long time, and they immediately start arguing. The mom does look at the photo of the wooden plaque. So clue number 4 or 5, I don't know what clue I'm at now. That find the noble bird, let him take you by the hand and give you passage to the sacred temple. But this is only half of the message. They need to find the other half, which is of course going to be in the other half of the Resolute desk, which sits in the Oval Office back in DC. In the White House, because it's the president's desk. Girl. These people are messy. All right. So we go back to DC from the University of Maryland, so another 9 miles. I don't know why Riley is going on with this, and they decide to break in to the White House during the annual Easter egg roll, which is a real thing. At the White House lawn, which does have general admission, but Dr. Chase gets in with her new boyfriend, Connor, who gets her into, and Gates gets them into the actual Oval Office. Boy, we randomly get this little boy yelling at Gates about how his ancestor, Thomas, helped kill Lincoln. It's like, what is this? What is this child? This is like the little boy from Jurassic Park. But they make a reference to Eisenschimmel's book. This is a real book by Otto Eisenschimmel, which came out in 1937, which is entitled Why Was Lincoln Murdered? If anybody was interested in that. I don't know why you would be. Anyway, so Gates and Dr. Chase go and just straight up manipulate poor Connor, who's just the sweetest boy. And I kind of don't like them for that. He deserves better. Anyway, Gage checks the Resolute desk while Dr. Chase is got Connor's attention elsewhere. He finds the wooden plaque is gone, and there is this seal that looks like the president's seal, but isn't, that's stamped into the wood. He takes a picture of it on this fucking old ass Nikon camera. It's just, again, technology. It's, bro, just get a cell phone. You don't even have to have it connected to anything. Just take pictures with it at this point. Anyway, Riley knows what the seal is, what nobody else does. So claps to you, Riley. And he shows them in his book, which none of them are read because they're all so rude. Poor freaking Riley. None of them appreciate him. But anyway, the seal is the president's secret seal. Bwam. All right. White House they go from the White House to the J. Edgar Hoover building, which is about a mile, but so that Gates can talk to Sadusky. I don't know how much time is supposed to pass between each of these scenes, because a lot of times so much travel is gone. But anyway, whatever. Yes, absolutely. Once again, Riley's coming in clutch. 100% ambassador. So Gates takes the photo to Sadusky. A photo which is evidence that he broke into the Oval Office. What an idiot, but whatever. They have a conversation outside the Capitol, which is 1.3 miles away from the J. Edgar Hoover building. So, like, did they just like teleport over there? Did they ride in a cab? Did they walk? I'm just very confused why they're so far away to have this conversation. But whatever, it's fine. It's fine. Gates needs Oh, okay. So they talk outside, and Sadusky affirms that there is a book, the president's secret book. So Gates needs a few minutes alone with the president. Here we get the line that I was talking about earlier. Because how do you up? I'm going to steal the Declaration of Independence. I'm going to kidnap him. I'm going to kidnap the president of the United States. That's how you up it. So then we get to the White House press office, where we have members of this staff trying to figure out where to move the president's party. But Dad and Riley and everyone are kind of, using the phones and computers to book every hotel in the area to make sure that they really only have one singular option, which is Mount Vernon, which, if you don't know, is in Virginia. So DC to Mount Vernon, oh my gosh, DC to Mount Vernon is about 15 miles. We're going to talk about that later. So Gates scubas into the party, and he has a suit under a scuba suit. I don't feel like the scuba suit would have protected the tux from getting wet, but I don't know. But it bothered me. He just gets into the party and has a conversation with the president, who's played by Bruce Greenwood. And honestly, Bruce Greenwood makes a great president, although I did find out he's Canadian, which I just thought was kind of funny. So they go on a little mini hunt, which allows Gates to get him alone, and they're kind of in this like underground cavern thing. And yeah, honestly, President, they don't give him a last name. President is really cool. But this dude, let's stop. Let's talk about these priorities. Benjamin Franklin Gates literally just abducted the president of the United States to prove his ancestor didn't kill Lincoln. You're going to spend the rest of your life in prison in order to prove your ancestor didn't do something pretty bad like 250 years ago. That was a little bit too much time. I didn't do the math right on that. But you get my point. That's bad priorities. This boy is dumb, but it's fine. Moving on. We're going to move on. So the president tells him that the book is in the Library of Congress. He gives him a code to get in and another code to find the book. And also tells him to look on page 47, which we still don't know what that is. And that's bothering me. Gates gets out. He shows the president how to get out. And then he goes to meet up with his dad to get a ride back to D.C. to the Library of Congress. But he tells Riley very specifically, meet me there in 20 minutes. You're not getting from Mount Vernon to D.C. in 20 minutes. Again, these people have to be teleporting. It's just not happening any other way. So anyway, in the Library of Congress, Sadusky is in on the presidential abduction case, which I don't understand why. I also don't understand why they keep saying kidnap when they're clearly talking about abduction, because I'm pretty sure the president is not a minor, but it's fine. We'll move past that semantics. He was abducted, not kidnapped. Get it right, people. I don't know if the FBI, if that's their jurisdiction or not, but we're, again, going to move past that. All right, so library heist time. Because he doesn't like a library heist. I love a library heist. All right, so they get to the president's secret room where they find the president's secret book. There is a page on Area 51. They don't look at it. There is a page on Kennedy's assassination. They don't look at it. Stay focused, Riley. Stay on target. All right, so we get to clue. I don't know what clue I'm at this point. I wrote it down as 4.5. So April 1865, Queen Victoria sends Pike being a reference to Foghorn Leghorn's great whatever grandfather, General Pike from the Confederate general guy, 2 coded missives. I don't know what a missive is. I'm assuming it's a message. The first is received, contains information regarding New World Treasure, the City of Gold. The second message was thought to contain a Playfair cipher suggesting contact with Lavallee, who will hide clues before his death. So, wait. Okay. So Queen Victoria, we're basically saying she was working with the Confederates. I don't know if there is any proof, evidence of that. I don't know if there's any, we think that might have happened. I don't know. So moving on. In 1880, the Resolute desks arrives in Washington, sent by the Queen and to President Hayes. We have the picture of the missing plaque, which is what we need to get the rest of the other half of the cipher. President Coolidge photographed the plaque and had it destroyed. Borglum, I didn't say that right, was commissioned to destroy the landmarks in sacred Black Hills Mountain. Black Hills Mountain is a reference to Mount Rushmore, which I'm calling clue number 5. So Mount Rushmore was a cover-up. Wow. So the FBI and the Secret Service show up. I'm not 100% sure why they know to go there. I mean, I know Sadusky told Gates to see the president to get the book, but he didn't know the book was there, or did he? Does Sadusky already know where all these treasures are? How much does he know? Should he be in the FBI? I feel like he's violating something. I don't know. I have questions about this man, but whatever. Dad gets the image of the plaque, which is a picture on his phone, and he takes it to Mom to translate. But again, the bad guys have copied his phone, so they also have the picture of the plaque. And they also get the combo and know that Mom can translate. Dr. Chase and Riley get away, and Gates does too, with a little help from Sandusky, who doesn't turn him in, even though he sees him. But they end up having to kind of run into a cop, literally, with their vehicle. They don't kill him, though. It's fine. And he now has their license plate and identities. So that's not great. So now they're really going to get in trouble. Because also, if you remember, they abducted the fucking president for this. It's fine. It's not fine, but it's fine. So, all right. So Foghorn Leghorn goes to the University of Maryland. Got there fast. To talk to Mom. And this is where I fully, absolutely, irredeemably hate him. And it's for something so small. He waltzes into this woman's office. She says it's closed. He closes the door behind him and just proceeds to have a conversation with this woman, and fuck off with that. Like, what are you doing? Like, if you weren't a bad guy before, you absolutely are now. Irredeemably so, in my eyes. Ugh. White men, you know? So he has an image of the plaque, and he shows her. But then Dad comes. Well, she pretends not to be able to read it. And then Dad comes, and he threatens to shoot him if she doesn't, send him away. They have a conversation. She gives him a faux clue, which is a code that she's in trouble, and that is find where the moon touches the earth and releases the hummingbird. I'm not sure why, because Dad is gonna give that message to Gates, and for whatever reason Gates is gonna understand what the message is. I don't, though. So moving on. Foghorn Leghorn reveals that he has the letter that Queen Victoria had sent to the Confederate General Albert Pike, who's his ancestor, but he burns it. That way no one else can have that clue, which I guess would have been clue 6. Yeah. All right, so he takes her and abducts her, and they go to from DC to Mount Rushmore, which is about 1,640 miles, or a 24-hour drive. I'm assuming. Maybe they flew, but then how did Gates, Riley, and Dr. Chase fly? It's like fire flight, because they got there before the bad guys, which doesn't make any sense. I'm telling you, they fucking teleport. Anyway, so Foghorn Leghorn is with Mom and the other bad guys, and they arrive to find Gates, Dad, and Dr. Chase and Riley are already there and waiting for them. So, clue, 7 is the entrance shall only be revealed, or I'm sorry, it's clue 6 continues. So this is stuff from the letter. The entrance shall only be revealed under cloudless rain. They end up using water bottles to throw on the rocks because it's going to cause the rocks to become discolored and show them what's hidden, which is a kind of a picture of an eagle where there's a gap in the rocks that kind of looks like a mouth. Clue continued is surrender your hand to the heart of the warrior. Gates puts his hand in the hole and finds a latch he pulls on, and there is a door revealed. And you go through the door, And then the clues are kind of done at this point, and now we're going to the underwater portion, or not underwater, well, yeah, underwater, but rather underground portion of this film, because you got to do that. So, yeah, they all go inside this little rocky room and into the cave, which is very beautifully carved. I applaud the set designer. It's very good. So the door closes and they're locked in because fucking Riley. And as Foghorn Leghorn says, there's only one way out. Forward. Again, I don't know what's up with that accent. So Riley, Dr. Chase Gates, and Foghorn Leghorn fall onto this balance thing, and they get separated from mom and dad. And then again, we get into some Mines of Moria shit. We're on this like balanced square that has a singular column holding it up, balancing it. So they all have to kind of stand in the corners because if they don't, it's going to tip over. And this allows them one at a time to kind of move so that in theory, there's going to be only one person left, which Riley volunteers to stay behind because he knows he's kind of the most, I don't want to say useless, but he's not as relevant to what's going on at this point. But due to some falling debris, Gates ends up being the one who's left behind, and they end up using this heavy totem pole thing to kind of throw to offset the balance so he can run up and with the resistance / aid of gravity get up onto the stairs. So they're all four survive and are able to go to this giant, generally like mostly flooded room. And then mom and dad are again separated and they go on their own little solo adventure while they're arguing the whole time. All right. So Foghorn Leghorn apologizes for smearing the Gates family name, but he needed them for this treasure hunt, specifically Gates, because he's pretty much doing all the work for him. And he needed to make a mark on history to be remembered. Literally the Anglo-Saxon privilege this man is just exuding. Like, it's a good thing his name isn't Pike, right? The mom is nerding out over their history when they do end up finding Cibola, which is, again, the city of gold underneath Mount Rushmore. It's interesting. All right. Riley grabs a brick of gold, which is hilarious. Honestly, same disease. The room begins to flood, though, and they follow the current and find a way out. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The moral of the story is don't go spelunking. It's dangerous. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. Although I did have a random thought. Maybe I got confused, but like, did Esteban, who was on the Florida ship, did they take him from Florida to South Carolina and then drop him back off on Florida? Because maybe that was why he couldn't find this place again. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I got confused about the locations. But anyway, okay, so there's like, so Riley, Dr. Chase, and Dad all go through this like tunnel. There's a door that opens and closes, but you have to use this like turning mechanism, which is a few feet away from it, to open it. So those three got through, and this is going to lead them to the way out. Gates and Foghorn Leghorn were turning the mechanism. It's very heavy. But there's an issue, and Gates leaves to help his mom get through. But at this point, the current is really strong, so there's really very little chance he can make it back through. And someone has to stay and hold the door, like open the door so they can all go through. Not all of them can go through. Someone has to open the door so they can go through. So the only way to do that is that someone stays behind. Foghorn Leghorn had wanted Gates to stay behind, which didn't make any fucking sense because why wouldn't his dad stay behind? But whatever, we'll move on. But at this point, there's no way he can get back and open it up so that Foghorn Leghorn can be the one that lives. So Foghorn Leghorn has to be the one that dies. But even then, in this like faux sacrifice, he's still getting what he wants because he's getting credit for finding Cibola because he can't let all of them die. They have to live to tell the world that he found Cibola. So even then, he's still fucking winning. But I just don't understand how they're spinning this to try to make him look like a good guy. He's not a good guy. He abducted people. He lied. He is misogynist. Fucking... he's calling racist Confederate soldiers remarkable men. Like, everything he's doing from top to bottom is awful. Like, sure, he can get credit for, I don't know, forcing people's hands to do the work for him. What credit does he deserve? In any way, shape, or form. Why did Ben give him credit for anything? He didn't do anything selfless at any point in this film. He's a bad dude. Fuck Foghorn Leghorn. I don't like him. Anyway, so Gates gets through the tunnel. They all make it through this like really blatantly obvious tunnel, which I don't know how no one has discovered. Like, I feel like they should have maybe hid that better in terms of like set design, but I'll move past that. So it looks like Sadusky's on Mount Rushmore too, and I don't know how he knew to go there. I'm very confused by that. But anyway, Gates is arrested. They take him to a flight hangar where the president is, and the president and Gates talk. One of the guards is like, "Sir, for your information, this is the man who kidnapped you." Like, bro, stand down. The president covers for Gates, and he's a pretty cool dude. Like I said earlier, I really like his portrayal. The president has tomorrow's headline, like tomorrow's newspaper, very early edition, revealing that Thomas Gates' name has been exonerated. And I still don't understand why they're giving Foghorn Leghorn credit in any remarkably positive way whatsoever. It doesn't make any damn sense, but fucking fine. Isn't history recorded for posterity's sake, but also so that we can learn? So wouldn't you want to point out that this bad man did a bad thing and the debt he had to pay for his crimes was death? Wouldn't that be a good message to send for the future? Whatever. And the president is curious about page 47, and Gates believes he can help with that. And then we cut away and don't learn what is going on there, even though we really, really wanna. So the mom is part of, we're cutting. The mom is part of the excavation of Cibola. Gates and Dr. Chase are getting back together, and people are finally recognizing Riley as the writer of the book and as a treasure hunter. And a cute chick has read his book and wanted him to sign it. It's so fun. And he got his spider, his car back, and the president given to him tax-free, and that's awesome. And then he immediately gets into a car accident. And honestly, that sums this movie up. So this movie had like less clues, but I think like the clues they had took a lot longer to get through, but we had a lot more heists, which I think is really, really fun. And we went approximately 9,495 miles. So basically, 9,500 miles. And again, I really wish that they gave us any indication of like how long this traveling was taking. Because I just want to know, you know? I just want to know. Ultimately, I love these movies. They're super fun. I don't believe I just spent an hour and 32 fucking minutes talking about this. My throat hurts so bad. Yes, because the president controls taxes. He could probably... Actually, I don't know. Can you pardon tax? He could pay for it. I'm sure the president makes money. You know what I mean? Like, he could pay for it. But yeah, anyway, I think these movies are so fun. Great adventure. Great heists, great underground scenes. I do like the idea of like an Indiana Jones meets Dan Brown. I think Nick Cage plays Ben Gates really well. I do hope we get a third movie. There's talks about it a lot lately. Again, I didn't watch the TV show, but Nick Cage wasn't in it. The portrayal of Ben Gates, I think, is very underrated. I love when Nick Cage plays these kind of nerdy, passionate intellectuals, because he does do it really well. I know people don't, necessarily talk about his underrated performances, or his like more controlled, calm performances as much as his explosive ones, but he does this equally as well. And yeah, I love Ben Gates as a character. It's super fun. I love these movies. I guess I'll go ahead and start wrapping things up because I'm losing my voice. Thank you for listening. This has been Cage Unleashed, hosted by me, Lego. You can find me on Instagram at the Horror Explorer, spelled HORROREXPLOROR. I post about horror films. You can also find me at Instagram on Cage Unleashed, which I post about Nicolas Cage. You can find me on YouTube at Legoland13. I do this show live at the Rob Fishback Network, and I also do a show called Characters of Culture. And then I do a show about the 80s miniseries and television series called Review on PLD Projects. That pretty much is all of the thingies I think I needed to thing. Hope everyone has a good time. Thanks to everyone who was in the chats. And yeah, have a good night. Peace.